Hello, everybody, and welcome to the newest episode of the KingSmith podcast
Yeah.
with your hosts,
Nathan Smith
and Zach King.
with guest.
Timothy Ulrich.
Yeah. Tim in the house.
Yep. So, our last episode, if y'all remember, was the finale of Job, where God came down and was basically like, "Listen here, idiot." And we decided to give ourselves a bit of a break from studying the Word because that was
That was a pretty in-depth study.
a pretty in-depth study.
But this week we have an interesting take on the word today.
Yeah.
Tim, you got this your devotional. What's it called, man? Give us an intro.
This is Ed Strauss's Superheroes Devotional, 60 inspirational readings on the biblical connections between superhero media, both movies, TV shows, and comics, and scripture. It was a present I got for Easter because my family splits presents between Easter and Christmas for budget reasons. So it's one of my favorite gifts I've ever gotten from any of these. Cool. And I thought it would be interesting to get together with two very good friends of mine, being Mr. Nathan Smith and Mr. Zach King, and discuss some of the characters and ideas this one brings up.
All
right.
Yeah.
So in case you couldn't tell, we're all super nerds.
Very much.
We are the mega nerds.
Oh, yes.
I'm more on the Star Wars Marvel end of things.
And, well, I'll say all three of us are gaming nerds.
Yeah, to an extent, yeah.
To an extent,
To some degree.
Yeah.
I'm more of, I know about them more than I've played them.
Right.
Which is me with almost
Fair
anything at this point. But
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Zach, what are you all into?
Star Wars and Marvel. I also like Lord of the Rings and like some of the more fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
Not that sci-fi isn't like a
Kingdom
fun.
Hearts kind of stuff.
Yeah, Kingdom Hearts. Like, hey, I'm gonna beat this giant ogre guy with a sword, with this magic sword I got from an elf.
Right. And Tim, what kind of nerd stuff are you into?
I've been a huge Marvel fan my whole life.
My man.
I grew up. I personally identified a lot with Bruce Banner, having grown up with some kind of anger issues throughout most of my life. So I made a personal connection with him, and then as I got older, I realized, wait, he's not the only superhero that exists. And then I found others
Really?
that... Yeah, it's shocking, isn't it?
I know, right?
But that led me into getting into superheroes. When my mother remarried the man that she has come to love, and the man I've come to call my father, has introduced me to Star Trek. And I am very much into Star Trek The Next Generation. I love Lieutenant Commander Data and Worf, especially.
Yep.
I like Star Wars a lot. I'm also into Lord of the Rings on some level, as most nerds are at this point.
Yeah.
Let's face it.
Better be.
Okay.
I like how none of us are into anime, or at least if we are, no one's mentioned it.
Star Wars Legends really is the only
Wow.
that I've followed.
You mean Visions?
Or Visions, whatever it's called.
Legends is something different.
Legends is basically the non-canon, like,
That's right.
alternate universe. All this crap that used to be canon that was awesome, and then Disney came in.
You suck.
Disney. Dave Filoni took it over, so it's okay again.
Yeah, it's okay.
He'll be good for the franchise.
Yeah,
I think.
But anyway, yeah, I'm into anime a little bit more than either of you guys are. It's just
Probably, yeah.
when you're the only person into anime in a group of friends, it gets weird when you say, "Hey, Then we talk about this weird cartoon I like to watch
like-
from Japan.
It's like, hey, I know none of you are into it, but My Hero Academia, am I right?
Right.
See, like, here's the thing with anime. So, like, there's, anime's got an earned reputation in some ways, but once you get past all of, like, the surface level animes, like all the mainstream stuff, anime actually does get pretty good.
Yeah.
I saw.
Hey, and some of that surface level anime is good as well.
Some of it is too, but
I'm just gonna say.
I saw. I don't know if you guys know the anime Weathering with You.
I'm not aware of this one.
I've heard of it. I haven't watched it myself.
Oh, I need to show it to you guys. It's incredible. Really,
Neat.
really weird kind of a love story type of thing, but it is so good. The animation quality in it is. The guy who wrote it, he's done a couple other big screen animes, and he's won a ton of awards for it. The art is unparalleled. It's beautiful. So, sorry, side tangent there.
You said it's called Weathering with You?
Weathering with You. Let me pop it up for you here
Nice.
on the Google machine. I always
Okay.
have Google on demand.
And even so, when I talk with other anime fans, I say, "Hey, I like Dragon Ball." They're like, "Oh my gosh, how can you like that? That's just people screaming and giant lasers." And I'm like, "Well, yeah." If you-
It's a great break for Dragon Ball Z is a great break from all of the like super heavy thematically rich ones like
Yeah.
this Weathering with You that Nathan has pulled up.
That animation does look amazing from the stills.
Yeah.
I think I have seen clips from it.
The
Like
lighting.
Like Kodo Shinkai. That's the guy. He's
Right.
incredible.
Oh, the lighting. That's beautiful.
Man, like, look at this one. Look at the rain.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Or this scene here.
It's like video games with ray tracing. It's like that's the equivalent.
See, that's what I said. That's what my first response. Bro, I'm glad somebody else knows what that is.
My gosh.
It's because I've watched Jacksepticeye.
Yeah.
There you go.
So, yeah, guys.
I got a ray tracing card.
No.
That's 2060.
Dope.
Hey guys. Let me just say, anime is not just for kids because there's certain things in
You gotta be careful
anime.
with that.
You gotta be careful with it.
You do have to be very careful.
Um,
Animation in general, regardless of
Right.
where it comes from, is not just for kids.
Really,
Right.
any form of media and content. Speaking of media and content, there's something pretty good that we've been kind of dancing around for a little bit here.
Yeah.
So, you got your devotional here,
I
Tim.
do, yeah. I went ahead before we started recording. I went ahead and asked for both of these guys' favorite superheroes, so that I could look at the chapters beforehand and discuss aspects of these heroes with them
right.
that
Okay.
relate to the Bible. Nathan Smith, do you want me to describe your favorite hero, or do you want to just go ahead and say who it was?
Oh. Let's do the description. Let's see if people can get it.
Yeah, okay. This is a hero that he's been through a lot, both trauma-wise, had some level of therapy. He's very...
Right.
Mm-hmm.
He needs it because people have described him as displaying textbook narcissism.
If you can't get it off of that.
If you don't know that one, very iconic line from the movie, that's kind of understandable because it's the one I've heard hated on the most across all three of his. But
I will say, based on the counseling classes I have taken and the ones I probably will take in the future, that's not an entirely inaccurate
No, it's
description of his
definitely-
character.
this is very true. For those who haven't figured it out yet, this is the one, the only Anthony Stark, Iron Man,
Yep.
as portrayed in the Marvel Cinematic Universe by Robert Downey Jr.
My man.
He was meant to play that role, guys.
Very much so.
Built to play that role.
Jon Favreau put so much effort into making sure that he got Robert Downey Jr. and not a star that would have been more financially safe.
Right.
Because he understood how perfect
Yeah.
Robert Downey Jr. would be. For those who aren't aware, Robert Downey Jr. had his own struggles with drug addiction up until 2001, where, according to the stories I've seen coming from interviews with the actor, he's mentioned that he was in a Burger King and ate a cheeseburger that was so bad that it made him realize, I don't think I can do this anymore. And he got better.
It's freaking amazing.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
Which,
He also has recorded an album called The Futurist,
Okay.
which is an Easter egg in Civil War, but we're getting off track.
yeah, all
I
right.
actually didn't notice that.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, isn't it amazing that God could use a cheeseburger from Burger King
Yes.
to
Yeah.
get a guy's life back on track?
Yeah. And while the salvation status of RDJ is
Questionable.
questionable,
We don't know.
he's been pulled out of one of the worst struggles someone can go through.
Right.
And he's come out the other end stronger,
Yeah.
and it's a beautiful thing to see.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
So, with the character, I wish that he had connected it a little more to that. Fair warning, this is a fairly shallow look into it, but it's something I felt we could. I could give a description, a brief rundown of what Mr. Strauss describes in here, and then we can expand upon it as people that have studied from a biblical worldview.
Yep.
Yeah.
So there's actually 2 chapters on Iron Man. So the first one talks about comparing the armor to the armor of God in Ephesians 6, which I feel is a really obvious comparison to make.
Right.
But it's an interesting one, and even you look at Infinity War, there is a way to get a shield and a sword out of the nanotech Iron Man suit.
Right.
Yep.
And that's not even the most advanced suit he has in the comics.
No, far from
Very
it.
far from it.
Oh,
The God Killer armor.
Oh my gosh.
Oh.
Like,
thing's insane.
yeah. But anyway.
Yeah. I think. Okay, where was it? Yeah, there was something really profound in the third to last paragraph. He mentions in Iron Man 2 how he feels like he's on his deathbed, and so he doesn't care about anything. So he's just gonna live life how he chooses
In the donut.
in the donut. But I'm thinking about the party scene.
Right.
He's
Just
completely
the party scene.
wasted. He's blasting
Yeah.
watermelons out of the air.
Yeah.
And Rhodey, aka War Machine, comes in and tells him, "You don't deserve to wear one of these. Shut it down." So Strauss comes in after that, saying, with Christians are not always worthy of their armor either. Too often we, like Stark, make provision for the flesh, and like Stark, we often suffer the consequences. Wearing works of darkness means living in the energy of your flesh, following your natural desires, and giving into temptation. On the other hand, wearing spiritual armor means walking in the power of the Spirit of Christ. And I thought that was a really interesting application
Yeah.
in comparison with the Iron Man armor.
Right.
Right.
Because thinking about the first suit of armor in the first movie and in the comics, that is keeping him alive actively. The
Right.
arc reactor that powers his suit is also what keeps him alive.
Right.
And you can kind of look at that arc reactor as a kind of, in a way, you can look at it as a symbol for Stark's salvation.
Okay.
Right.
I don't know what you guys want to do with that, or if you guys have anything to add, but I thought that was an interesting thing that
Yeah,
to look into.
it is pretty interesting. You know, yeah, it is his. It is very much the thing that saved him, but it's the thing that saved him physically for a time. We got to
Right.
remember that
Yeah,
Right.
that's true.
because he kept trying to do everything on his own power. But then, once you get to about the third movie, and I don't remember where in the comic line the third movie falls, but once you get to about the third movie,
It's
he
a-
realizes I can't do it on my own,
Right.
Yeah,
right? And so,
which is why there were no Iron Man solo movies after that.
Right.
yeah. Well, and really, a lot of the solo movies after that ceased existing.
That's
Right.
fair. There aren't quite as many of those anymore.
Right.
Zach, you got something?
Yeah, it's really interesting the growth the character of Iron Man has.
Yeah.
Because if you look in the first Avengers movie, when they have just like captured Loki and put him in the Hulk containment cell, and they're studying the scepter, and it's like messing with them and making them
Mhm.
argue.
Yeah.
This is just something I've seen on the internet over my years of delving into Marvel,
Yeah.
and it's that when Stark and Captain America like accuse each other of doing stuff, of something, and
Mhm.
in the first Avengers movie, like Cap accuses Stark of not being Tony of not
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
the guy to make the sacrifice. You jump to Endgame. What does Tony do?
Tony was the only one who made the sacrifice.
Tony was the one who made the sacrifice
Yeah.
play, right?
Yeah.
And while I will always hold up Captain America as the guy who's like the moral standing of virtue, he's the Boy Scout
Yeah.
type, the soldier the good soldier that follows orders.
Yeah.
I think Iron Man's characterization is a bit more compelling than
Mhm.
Captain America's,
Mhm.
generally speaking. Now in the MCU, I think they give Captain America a bit more of a compelling storyline throughout the
Yeah.
the movies.
Captain America, to me, this is going to sound really weird, but I see Captain America's arc working similarly to Woody's from the Toy Story franchise.
Really,
Okay.
You think about it, in a Captain America, every choice he makes is to serve someone else.
Mm-hmm.
right,
And he finally does something that he knows will be best for him while still providing
Mhm.
he gives Sam the shield,
Right.
providing
Right.
humanity with a different beacon of hope than
Right.
him,
Right.
one that can reach people in a different way than he can.
Right.
right,
And then there's Woody, who admittedly, it's not a perfect analogy because Woody is fairly selfishly motivated in the first movie, I would
Right.
say. But as he grows,
Mhm.
he tries as much as possible to make everything work for Andy.
Right.
right,
That is his ultimate motivation, is
Right.
to make sure that Andy is happy. Even when he's being selfish, it's because he wants to be the one that's making Andy happy,
Right.
which is... There's a lot to unpack there, but you
Right.
get to the fourth movie, and the third movie, he learns to let go of Anthony, and quite frankly, that was the perfect way to end the arc,
yeah,
Yeah.
if you ask me.
right,
But Toy Story 4, he learns to let go of needing that role altogether,
Yeah.
and lets the others take care of it.
right.
So
I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, it is interesting.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
never actually spoken it out loud, so hopefully that made sense.
I
No,
think
that makes perfect sense. Yeah.
I think what changed for Captain America specifically, and I know we're talking about Iron Man and all that junk, but I think what changed for Captain America specifically, at least in the MCU,
Mhm.
is the events that happened in Winter Soldier
Yeah.
kind of changed his mindset of, oh, there's more than just, blindly following orders.
Yeah.
The Civil War is where it came to a head,
Yeah.
is where Cap is just like, I can't trust S.H.I.E.L.D., I shouldn't trust the government because of what happened.
Right.
Tony and Cap kind of have
They
have intersecting arcs,
Right.
in a way. Tony learns to be as selfless as Cap.
Mm-hmm.
Cap learns to be as shrewd and as discerning as Tony is.
And I think that's an effect they have on each other.
Very much so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
I think ultimately, even if Tony himself isn't a Christian, in the MCU at least, and Steve mentions in the first Avengers movie, there's only one God, man, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't dress like that when he's referring to Thor.
That's a pretty clear and blatant.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a very obvious.
Call out to God.
Yeah.
And I think
I've seen a meme of Cap saying he's met two gods and he's still a Christian, and Tony's met two gods and he's still an atheist, and then Hulk's like, I met two gods and I hit them both. But
Yep.
I like that one. That's
yeah,
pretty
that's
good.
that was I liked that. I liked that a lot. But thinking, even if Tony himself is not a Christian, I think the impact on Cap's life that Tony had turns Cap into a better Christian.
Right.
Because you look at him in the first movie and the first Avengers
Boy, was
movie,
naive
even
as all get out.
very blind faith,
Yeah.
which is not what we are called to have.
Yeah.
We are
Our
called-
faith should be informed by the scriptures.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
When you
Not
have a
just-
question, you take it to the scripture.
Right.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Isaiah, I think it's Isaiah 55. God says, come,
Yeah.
let us reason together.
Yeah.
He's not saying, hey, just trust me blindly, come to me with your questions, I'll give you an answer.
Now, granted, he might answer you in pretty harsh ways or pretty chill ways.
Okay,
depending on-
okay, to be fair,
To be fair,
The
we've
little
definitely
question.
earned the harshness.
we've
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
heard. To be fair, I can say this. I know we kind of ragged on Job a little bit in the last
We did.
episode,
We really did.
and
He
I've
earned it, though.
yeah he kind of and
As if we did it right.
yeah, and I will gladly go on record to saying I have ragged on Jonah more times than I care to count. Because
It's very easy to.
because Jonah was the Lord's saltiest prophet before he went in the fish.
But this is true.
Then he went in the fish, and it just added salt onto it.
Of course.
But
yeah,
kind of coming back to the superhero arc.
Yes.
You look at the imperfections that
Right.
Stan Lee and all of the writers put into and really built into the characters, because it's not like the DC universe where Superman is, viewed as perfect, even though he's not perfect. We know that, but they never actually call that out in the DC comics. Versus in the MCU, they actually call each other out all the time.
Right.
They're constantly building and evolving as a team to become better.
right.
That is.
Hence Age of Ultron,
Yeah.
which, spicy hot take on that, Ultron was right. But
I will say,
I'll
Are
go
you
into
referring
that
to the
later.
fact that Ultron is just against humanity?
No. In the comics, he is, but in the movies, he actually completes the mission, Peace in Our Time.
well, okay.
I
In
will-
the movies, he was actually right.
okay.
I'll just leave it
Okay.
there.
That's fair.
I think in the comics, he has a similar motivation, although in
He's
the
definitely
comics,
more sinister.
and in the comics,
Sure.
it's not Tony and Bruce that make Ultron. It is Hank Pym,
Yeah, it is.
and Hank Pym based Ultron's AI off of his own brain, his own like
yeah.
thought process and brain pattern,
And Hank Pym is a very unstable.
and
he's
yeah,
not.
especially at the
something-
time,
His wife was even worse, but yeah.
This, yeah.
yeah.
This is something This is why I kind of felt disappointed with the first Ant-Man movie when it wasn't Hank Pym, because
Right.
there's so much. There's so much that they essentially are just skipping over by making him as old as he is and
Yeah.
not
And-
using a younger version of him.
Yeah,
I
and
hope they do a retrospective movie at some point.
That would be really cool.
Yeah,
I think
and-
there's a lot there they could pull from.
Yeah.
and I'm not saying, look, I love Paul Rudd. He's an amazing dude,
My guy.
He's
funny guy,
He is amazing. I love him as Scott Lang.
fellow Chiefs fan.
Yeah,
That's
true.
true.
But I'm just waiting for the day he'll invite me to the Super Bowl with him, and we'll have a
Hey,
blast.
Paul, if you want to hang out, call me. I might have it on my schedule. I don't know.
Paul, unlike the dirty Packers fan that I normally record with,
Alright.
I'm always available for you.
But you look at the imperfections in the MCU.
Mm-hmm.
They're not perfect people. But look at Stan Lee.
Yeah.
Look into the context of Stan Lee. Who was he?
He's Jewish.
He was a Jew. He was a Jewish person. Well, is. I mean, he's dead, but he is. He's Jewish.
Yeah.
Right.
And so if you look at the MCU, all of the different characters, all of the different things that he's written in there are all types. Most of them are all types of Christ. If you
Right.
do the whole biblical typing thing,
Right.
most of them are, because you have the stature of Captain America being the moral figurehead.
Yeah.
You have the discernment of Tony Stark and the knowledge of him. You've got the ability of Spider-Man and wanting to help out the little guy all the time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody wants to do that.
Yeah.
But you got Spider-Man wanting to help the little guy. You've got some who want to keep their identity a secret. You have some that want the identity to be out there. Tony Stark, I am Iron Man.
Which was an ad lib,
It was an ad lib, but that was one of the best ad libs ever.
And
and it served the character incredibly
Also-
well.
Perfect.
I'll say Captain America, people know he's Steve Rogers, but that's just because of the nature he was created.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
that's part of his arc.
Spider-Man, though, nobody knows until it actually is made public.
Right.
But
Like Jesus telling people not to like go shouting out about him being the Messiah.
But
Yeah.
but Jesus also
he also wanted to be known, though, right?
but
Yeah.
Jesus also is just like
He wanted to be known for his works,
right.
and not for a title.
Yeah.
Yeah. Jesus
Yep.
was just basically like, "Hey Pharisees."
That literally just clicked in my head.
Yeah.
Oh boy,
My
that's
gosh,
cool.
it's amazing. And yeah, while Iron Man is a fantastic character, Tim, you and I share. I think we share a relation to. You mentioned
Mr.
Bruce.
Hulk.
You share. You mentioned Bruce Banner.
I did, yes.
With your anger issues, and
Mm-hmm.
I'll say this now. I have had similar anger issues myself in the past, and what related me to Bruce Banner is that for a time, like Bruce does in the comics, like when Bruce first transformed into Hulk, Bruce is like thinking the Hulk's a monster and seeking out a cure and trying to do this.
Mm-hmm.
For a time, I viewed my anger as this monster. I have to conquer it. I have to,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
A lot of
then,
people do.
but then, as I read the Bible, and particularly the accounts of Jesus cleansing the temple,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
learned that at specific times there is need for anger.
Yeah. There's righteous anger.
There is such a thing as righteous anger.
Yep.
The devotional brings that one up too. It's important to understand that anger is not wrong in itself. God himself gets angry at times, but the difference is that he becomes angry very slowly. I love the fact that they feel that it's a very, to me that seems like a very childish way to phrase it, which I kind of find humorous, but
I mean, it is a superhero devotional.
yeah,
Yeah.
no, it's gonna. There are a lot of superheroes happens to be a type of IP that a lot of kids are into. So
Right.
putting it on a level kids can understand makes sense.
Yes.
But it's not wrong.
It's not wrong
It's
at all.
not.
It's
a great,
it's a
reminder,
paraphrase of Scripture. Scripture says God is slow to anger.
Right.
Well, and you look at how, God in the desert with all the Israelites, how he handled them. Okay, yeah, Abraham had to talk him down a couple times.
Well, Moses.
Or Moses, sorry. I get them
I
confused.
mean, Abraham.
Yeah,
Abraham probably had to talk God down
well,
a few
Abraham had
times.
to do it too, but
He-
ram in the thicket, right?
right. And if you, but yeah, to your point that you were just making, Moses had to talk God down, and that reminds me of when God was just like, "That's it, Moses. Bring your family up here. I'm gonna wipe everybody out. You're gonna be Israel." And Moses was just like,
He's like, well,
Well,
remember
well-
your promises now.
and what Moses did.
And God was like, well, yeah, I have my promises, but I can still keep it through you. And then
Yeah.
Moses was like, no, that's okay.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing to notice. Moses was not rebuking
Very
God.
bad paraphrase.
Yes, that's an important.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
important.
Moses
to
was
say.
not
important.
Moses was not rebuking God like Peter did.
Ah. Oh, boy.
Love
Get behind
Peter.
me, Satan.
Love Peter, but as I said,
I identify with Peter a lot as well.
I get that.
as I said,
get that.
as I said a couple episodes ago while we were talking about the Pharisees, Peter had a bad case of foot and mouth itis,
Yes. He was foot and mouthitis.
where he kind of jumped the gun and wound up with
I
his
will
foot.
not deny you.
He-
5 minutes later,
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Jesus
But-
stared at him like, bro.
but circling back to the devotional,
Yeah.
I also view for the longest time, and I still do. I kind of view Bruce Banner and the Hulk as separate characters, because I think that's how it's written.
It is until
Ver-
Dr. Hulk happens.
Yeah, until Professor Hulk, where they kind of.
Or Professor, yeah.
But even then, there's still.
Yeah.
And if you look at Banner's backstory, where the Hulk was just basically this alternate personality that he developed because of his abusive father.
Mm-hmm. Because he
And-
buried all of his anger, thinking that any sign of any emotion would do harm.
Right.
Right.
And then he got blasted with some gamma rays, and out came a giant graying monster.
Yeah.
There is
Spawned by
There-
rage.
Bruce Banner is one of the most interesting cases of dissociative identity disorder
Uh-huh.
to ever be shown in media.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
it's not.
Yeah.
He's not. I don't know how many people actually view it as that.
right.
I not
But-
thought of it that
and
way before.
You
You're
look
right.
in the comics, you have Bruce himself, you have Savage Hulk, which is the regular Green Hulk, who was
Yep.
originally gray but turned green because of printing issues and everything, and
Right.
it was just easier to print that color.
Yeah.
And then they retconned the gray Hulk that was in some issues as Joe Fixit.
Yep.
So you have the three of them. You have, on top of that, you have what's referred to as the Devil Hulk,
Yep.
who is another completely separate entity
Yep.
that is created essentially to be a loving father figure
Yep.
inside of Bruce's head
right.
in a really weird and disturbing way,
Right.
where you kind of feel like they weren't sure what to do with it, and then they turned it into it partway through,
That's probably what ended up happening.
probably. But it's still interesting to think about. Like the Devil Hulk especially is, there's so much with that you can do.
Right.
Because I think part of the reason it is a Devil Hulk is because that's how Bruce views his father.
Right.
And this is meant to be a surrogate father figure, and there is still some overlap from that,
Right.
regardless of whether or not he wants it there.
Right.
It's bizarre. And then you have issues where right before the Infinity Gauntlet series in the comics that the Infinity War movie is partially based on,
Yeah.
right before that, there is a run in the Incredible Hulk like solo comics, where Joe Fixit, aka Grey Hulk, and the Savage Hulk and Bruce are literally like fighting over the body to where it looks like Bruce is just getting tumors all
Right.
over his body.
That's right.
And so Doc Samson, who is another Gamma-related superhero,
Yeah.
Right.
has to go into Bruce's head and have them all sit down for like a group therapy session.
Mm-hmm.
And that is one of my favorite comics I have ever read,
Yeah.
because it shows how deep of a character Bruce really is.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And something I also related to with the Hulk is in the cartoons and, most of the time in the comics, the Savage Hulk, the normal Hulk, the Hulk everybody thinks of,
Mm-hmm.
due to the abuse his father gave him, Savage Hulk is just like simple and childish, where he just wants to be left alone. And I think that's a mixture of him,
Yeah.
both the Hulk and Bruce being like agreeing on something, just like, hey, I just want to be left alone. Why are you guys bothering me?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump on the General Ross is a butt train here.
He didn't know how to handle it.
Okay.
He turns better as you go throughout the comics.
Yeah, ish. But
Especially,
After Tony gets involved, I should say.
I think General Ross, like once he becomes a Hulk himself, he really starts to identify with Bruce's struggle.
right.
It's
But
been a second since
but the first few years, General Ross really starts out as a guy who's just like General Ross is the villain.
Yeah.
He's an absolute monster.
Yeah.
Yeah, he really is.
In the
Which
beginning.
Which is weird. He's the actual monster in the at
And-
the beginning there.
and it brings
What a
in
shock! Humanity, monstrous. Whoa!
And
Oh, never.
a
The
question at
depravity of man.
yeah. It brings in a question asked in a movie called The Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Oh.
If you guys remember, spoilers by the way, if you guys remember at the end of that movie, Clopin, the narrator,
Yeah.
is asks what makes a monster and what makes a man, because people thought Quasi was the monster because of his deformities,
Right.
but really it was Claude Frollo who was the
You know I am a righteous man. Of my virtue I am justly proud.
good song. We don't have the right for it. I don't want to get too.
That's okay. We won't. More than I think it's like more than 30 seconds or something like that.
But anyway,
Outside of fairness.
yeah. But anyway, and it's just like, bro, this guy just wants to be left alone,
Mm-hmm.
and why aren't you leaving him alone?
Right.
And that's my mindset going into other movies like the Bourne series and Rambo, of just like
Ooh.
I haven't gotten around to
Rambo.
seeing either of those, other than I've seen
What?
one clip of First Blood,
Bruh.
and I really, really want to see it
Bruh.
based on
Right.
that one clip.
It's
Anyway.
really good.
Nothing is over. You can just
Lots of
oh,
action. Lots of action.
I should
Be
really
warned,
bring
y'all.
those movies. And
Yes.
we should watch.
We
Full
should-
disclosure.
Lots of
Very
action, lots of
action.
gore, from what I
I
understand.
think there's some language in it too.
There's-
Probably.
Yeah, there's some
But-
language,
This one clip proved to me that Sylvester Stallone can actually act.
but right,
Mhm.
it's the nothing is over
Yeah.
speech at the end of the First Blood,
Beautiful.
and
Actually, I haven't watched.
I have those at my house, so we're gonna.
Bruh.
We might have to go. I might have to go get those.
I don't think I've watched the speech.
Wow.
Yeah, but
Might
anyway,
not have.
but
I might have
anyway,
stopped the movie.
yeah.
I don't remember it.
back to the point I was trying to make is with Hulk and characters like Rambo and Jason Bourne, where the government basically creates what they are
Yep.
and then continues to screw around with them.
Yeah, same with what Tony did.
You know, it goes back to the chart. The more
Jarvis.
it goes back to that point of the more you screw around, the more you find out.
Right. Yeah. Screw around and see what happens, right?
But anyway,
Oh,
So-
yes.
yeah, circling back to the Hulk, it's just you said you related to Bruce Banner with your anger issues. I do too. I relate to the Hulk with there was a point in my life right after my dad went into prison, where I just wanted to be left alone.
That's right.
And people were trying to help, and I thank them for trying to help. I get what they were trying to do, but sometimes you don't need to intervene to help. Sometimes you just need to be there, and
Yeah, sometimes you just need to exist.
sometimes you just need to exist.
I can relate this even further to the Hulk. Ooh, I love this. Okay.
Right.
Do you know Hulk the End?
I'm not familiar.
It's been a while since I dipped into that story.
But you've heard of it, at
I've
least?
heard of it,
Okay.
yeah.
The idea is that Hulk is the last surviving sentient creature on the planet.
Ooh.
Okay.
He's really old, and the only other living thing other than him
Mm-hmm.
are mutant cockroaches that are the size of, like, grizzly bears.
Ooh.
Okay.
And every day, he gets eaten down to the bone and heals back.
That hurt.
But it's the Hulk and Bruce are both still there,
Mm-hmm.
and Bruce monologues for a little bit, and then Bruce dies,
Yeah.
and then the Hulk goes, "For once, I'm finally completely alone."
Mm-hmm.
And then the final line is, "Hulk feels cold," and it ends. And that to me that is so powerful. This idea that he finally gets complete solitude, and he realizes this is horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Like you were saying, sometimes all they need to do is just be there.
Yeah.
He realizes it's incomplete without Bruce.
Yeah.
Right.
And I can speak from personal experience. I enjoy being with friends even if we're not doing anything. Just the simple fact that I'm around them
Yeah.
makes
I'm with
me
you.
happy.
Yep.
Yeah, one of my favorite memories, and Nathan, you were there,
Mhm.
but this happened last year before you. Tim was at college.
Yeah.
You were here.
I'm
Tim.
still a freshman. I'm a baby.
You were still a baby, but there was one day. I think it was in the spring semester.
Mm-hmm.
Me and Nathan were talking, and Nathan's like, "Oh, I gotta do some mixing for another one of our friends."
Right.
And I'm gonna do it in the movie room. And I was like, well, I'm gonna go get my PS4 and hook it up to the TV in there and play games. And what we did was my roommate Levi, wonderful dude.
Oh, I love Levi.
Yeah.
Levi's
He's
cool.
my guy.
Yeah, my roommate Levi.
Imagine
At
if
the
we
time,
had him
roommate.
here, too.
Yeah,
That would've been crazy.
That would've been
I
amazing.
need more mics.
yeah. But anyway,
Sorry.
at that time, Levi was only there for a short bit because he had to go do some other. He had to do a rehearsal for the play at that time. But all me and Nathan did was he was there on his laptop. He was in the movie room on his laptop, not on his laptop, on his computer, mixing and playing the music in the background. I was on the TV with my PS4, farting around in Kingdom Hearts,
Yeah.
like I
As
normally
one
do,
does.
as one does,
I get that.
and just playing around and doing some stuff, doing some post game content for one of the games. And we just sat there and did our own thing, and it was the best time ever.
Yeah.
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 There was
Sometimes it's all you need.
here's a little testimony for you guys. So, a couple years ago, long story short, I was in a hard spot, and maybe I've shared part of this story before, but yeah. Anyways, so I was in a hard spot, and I needed help. I needed people around me who were loving and who were able to pull me up from the water, essentially. Because, my grandma had just died. There was a couple other things in my personal life that were going on. A lot of things going on at home, and it was during COVID, so, depression and mental stuff was real, really real. And that was really my first time that I've experienced that and addressed it, right? So, but I'm with my friends and they say, hey, we want to take this trip out to St. Louis. I says, okay.
I remember you guys talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
It was a fun trip from what I heard.
Oh, it was a great trip. But I was really good friends with one of the guys, but the rest of the people I didn't know. And there was like 5 of us. And so we ended up going. We all go together. And during this trip, we all became some of the best friends that I'll ever have. Some of the closest friends. They're my rock. Some of the closest friends that I'll ever have came from that week-long trip. Just a spring break thing, spur of the moment, because, I didn't want to go home because there was home stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to go stay on campus because there was on-campus stuff. I just wanted to go. And so when this thing came up, I said, look, this would be perfect for me. So I went. It was one of the best decisions I ever made. And then after that, finished the school year out together, ended on a really good note. And then I started working private security, and my boss, Alan Pradell, really became my mentor in that time. And he continued to help pull me out of my brain funk that I was in. And, lo and behold, now here we are now. So,
Yep.
Lord uses people.
Lord uses people.
I'm very glad that he put the people in my life that he has.
Yeah. And if any, this is something that I would like to, if we don't have anything else to end on, if I know I speak for myself and I think I speak for Nathan as well.
Mm-hmm.
If you guys who are listening to this podcast, if you guys know us personally, don't be afraid to come up to us. Say, hey, I'm struggling with this, whatever it is.
Yeah. Talk to us.
Talk to us. We'll listen. And again, I'm gonna speak for myself. As far as the conversation we have goes, it will not leave my head.
Same.
I completely agree. I'm also available, although I know I'm only I'm definitely one of the youngest people on this campus, but I love having the opportunity to help others work through what they are struggling with. It is something that I feel is very important to me, having had to help one of my brothers back home and some other people over the years. It's just all 3 of us all 3 of us I can have a heart to serve.
Yeah. And all 3 of us, it sounds like, have been through tough times in the past.
At some point.
And I'll say, while I wanted to be alone, that doesn't mean I should have been alone at that time.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah. You need people.
Because
You need people.
Yes.
well, at to a certain extent, if somebody's going through a tough time, yes, give them space to process. There's also that, like, hey, I'm here for you. You shouldn't be alone because of
Reasons.
Whatever those reasons are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, to end on somewhat of a brighter note, Tim, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Thank you
Thank
guys
you.
for inviting me. This has been it's been a blast. I know this was probably a little more serious than you guys expected going into it.
That's
Honestly,
all right.
This is actually
No.
about right where I was kind of thinking.
Yeah.
Was it? Okay,
Oh,
good.
yeah.
I'm glad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad we got to dive deeper into this. Now hopefully you guys can take a look at your guys' favorite superheroes, both the hosts and you guys as an audience. Think about how the superheroes that you look up to, if you look up to any, relate to the scriptures.
Mhm.
There are several of them that mirror biblical figures. Like
Yeah.
this devotional compares Wolverine to Jehu in the Book of Kings.
Right.
So
And
that's
Whoa.
that's a fun one.
Whoa.
Also, for those who know the three of us personally, if you want to borrow the devotional at all, let me know. I am more than willing to give it to you.
It's called the Superheroes Devotional.
Devotional by Ed Strauss, spelled Strauss.
I might have to pick that up for myself.
I might have to buy
Oh
one.
yeah.
And
Yep.
hey guys, just because Tim has like an official devotional book for superheroes, doesn't mean that the biblical principles taught in there are limited to superheroes.
Not at all. You can apply this to any other media franchise, any intellectual property that you enjoy,
Right.
Pretty much, yeah.
and
All
it's
right,
something
guys.
you should do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the KingSmith podcast. We hope to see you next week, Sunday at 3 p.m.
Be excited. It's gonna be awesome.
It is awesome.
Heck
Deuces.
Peace.